You asked and I listened. I've literally received so many requests on Instagram and in YouTube comments asking about the visa situation. And today in this video, we are going to meet the wonderful Evelyn, who is going to give us a bit of information about this subject, something that she knows a lot about, having navigated the visa process herself. Let's get into the video. I wanted to do this. Thank you so much for coming on. I wanted to do this interview because I've had so many people reach out to me recently about visas, like on Instagram and in my YouTube comments. Oh, we want to come and work in Italy. And honestly, I have no idea about visas because I was fortunate to move here before Brexit. So I didn't have to go through any of that palaver. And I've followed you for a long time now on Instagram. And I have seen how you have develop lots of products and services to help people that want to move to Italy. So I was like, do you know what? I need to speak with somebody who knows more information about this than me. And so you were the first person I thought of. So I'm really happy that you decided to come onto my channel and speak with me. So why don't we begin? Tell me about you. Tell us about you. Tell us about you.
So I guess, I don't know. I guess I'll just start with, I'm originally from Vermont. So it's like a little state in the Northeast. And I actually moved to Italy about 10 years ago for university. So I moved directly at 18 to go study. But I did study at an American university. So it was in English. It wasn't really, a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh my God, that's such a big difference. And I was like, it wasn't. I was in English classes. I was with other Americans. So yes, we were in Rome, but it wasn't exactly a huge change. So I studied, and then I don't know, I kind of from when I started studying knew I was going to stay. I just decided. In fact, I was one of the few people who kept my Permesso di Soggiorno going. A lot of students let it just go, they didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
And then after that, I decided to kind of stick around, and so I got my bachelor's in archaeology and cultural heritage management. I studied my master's in also arts and culture management, but then I kind of switched gears, and I did a sommelier course, and I decided to kind of work more in marketing, especially with food and wine, and then kind of from that, I've hopped around from Rome to Milan and now Turin. And so now I do that part-time, and then I also am working on my own stuff, trying to help people move to Italy and trying to tell people more about that. So
yes. So you've been here for ages. You've got a lot of experience of life here. I've been living here for 4 years this year, and I still feel like there's so much more for me to learn. So you have a lot more experience than me, that's for sure.
Well, it was kind of funny because I didn't learn a lot of it until about 5 years in, because for the first 4 or 5 years I was at university and I didn't even really speak Italian, and I just wasn't I was with the university, so I didn't care to look. It wasn't until I graduated and realized my university told me nothing about what we needed to know about staying. And so I suddenly found out, and I was like, oh, wait, what do I do? And they didn't really know. And so I had to kind of figure it out.
Yes, but sometimes that can be, beneficial when you learn yourself rather than being told how to do things. But yes, not always, I agree.
It was kind of it was kind of stressful, but I mean, worked out in the long run. I always found something, but I mean, before that, I didn't even really learn Italian that well. I didn't really try to do anything.
I feel you. Literally, I moved here barely able to say grazia in Italian, literally, and only now am I really starting to be a bit more focused with my studies, shall we say, because I kind of just got by for the last 4 years, but it's not ideal. You need to speak really to have a good life here, I think. So yes. It's true. Okay, so let's move into visas then. So this is the main topic of this interview. Tell me about visas. What do you know? What are the different types of visas? It's a complete minefield, I think. It's very difficult to navigate. So tell me what you know.
Well, I mean, it's so funny that you said you were getting a lot more comments, because actually I originally designed my business, content, everything, thinking that it was for Americans. And then I realized, like with Brexit, actually, like a large portion of the people that reach out are coming from the UK and are trying to figure out. And their questions are always like, okay, wait, can I sneak in with the Brexit? Like, can I still sneak in? Which, like, it's funny because we have found a few people who were able to like say, oh, but I was in Italy before. So, you know, it's like there's still some little leeway there, but not a lot. Like most of the time it's mostly closed. But yeah, I mean, like the visas, well, it's funny because like the visa is not even the start of of the whole like process of coming to Italy, because that is what you need to get in. But then, like, you know, after you get your visa, so your visa helps you enter the country. After you get that, you have to do the permesso di soggiorno every year or every 2 years, like depending on what you do. And that is the longest process, and it's never ending. So, you know, you get your visa and you're super excited. You're like, okay, cool, I can like move to Italy now. And you don't realize, like, oh no, there's more to do. Like
that's the beginning.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also really funny because, yeah, so I came on a study visa. Obviously, I came for university, which is basically one of the easiest, we can say, visas to do, because you just need to be enrolled you just need to have a program. And a lot of people I know did come over with that visa. It's just sort of like the starting point. But obviously then we have ones for work, for freelance, for marriage. Actually, there's not a visa for marriage. Usually you just come over and figure it out here. And then like retirement, like that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different ones, but it is amazing to me how many people don't realize they need one. Like, like there are a lot of people in Facebook groups who are like, hey, so I came to Italy like 6 months ago and I want to do this. And I was like, okay, where's your visa? Like, they don't. So
there are lots of misconceptions about visas as well. Like even where, I mean, you can tell me, can you buy a visa?
No, you have to pay for what? Yes. Technically there's one, but it cost $500,000. So they have introduced this thing called an investor visa, and you can basically give the government money, or you can donate money to, like, it has to be a foundation that the government approves of, but like you can do some like philanthropic like donation, and they'll give you a visa to come live in Italy for 2 years. But every time you want to renew that, you have to pay again. Like how paid. And I want to say, actually, the starting price might be lower. It might be like $250,000. Might be like bare minimum. Yeah, I mean less, but yeah. So like I remember it was like there's a few different tiers that you can go. But no, like other than that, no, you have to like apply, and they definitely can reject you. And they can easily reject you for things that aren't even on the checklist. Like they might just decide that day they don't like you and reject you. So, I mean, there's that. And then another misconception that I hear a lot are like with the 1 year house things and with all the like housing, because housing in general is cheap in Italy. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to buy a house in Italy and then I can just go live there. You can't. Like owning a house or owning property in Italy doesn't give you actually any guarantee that you'll get a visa. For instance, like a lot of people do that, and you can come for vacation, like, you know, the 3 months, 6 months off, 3 months on kind of thing. But like you can't necessarily live there full time. So
yes, because I see a lot of these posts as well in Facebook groups, especially. This is where a lot of people discuss the visa situation. And yes, the €1 homes or buying a property here is always cited as a good reason of being able to obtain a visa, but clearly no.
Well, yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, just like on the €1 home thing, the thing that's about, one, it doesn't give you a visa. But you also, you know how like you have to restore it within 5 years or something like that. To restore it right now, Italy has a bunch of bonuses, but if you don't have a visa and you're not a resident and you don't actually have anything in Italy, you can't necessarily get those bonuses. And then people don't necessarily want to work with you if you don't have a bank account in Italy, but you can't get a bank account in Italy without being like, everything just stacks on top of each other. So it actually like doesn't like there are people who have done it, but most people who I know have done it successfully already were dual citizens, or they got in through Brexit, like before Brexit happened completely. So yeah, like I don't know many people have been able to like get a visa because they bought a €1 house.
Yes, I think this is definitely a common misconception, and also when it comes to work as well, because a lot of people have been messaging me, particularly because they want to find work in Italy. Now, obviously, when I moved here pre-Brexit, it was just a case of emailing schools or, you know, wherever I wanted to work and sending my CV, and that was it. But now, am I right in thinking that a school or a company has to sponsor you if you decide to obtain a visa in that way?
Yes. So they have to sponsor you. And the great thing is actually Brexit's really nice for us Americans because, and it's really great if you're Irish, by the way, because basically to sponsor a visa, you have to prove that no one else in Italy and no one else in the EU can do your job. And that's like, they have to prove that in order to give you the sponsorship for a visa. And in reality, like English schools don't give out visas because the truth is like there are plenty of people who can teach English. And before, Americans could barely ever get a visa because there was always like the British who were coming down to teach English, which they learn British English anyway most of the time. So, you know, there was also that. Now that there's Brexit, it kind of makes it a little bit even playing field. But I mean, there's still, Ireland is still in there. So Irish have like can go get a job, no problem.
Yes.
So yeah, because like definitely English schools sponsoring a visa is really uncommon, like very, very uncommon.
And I think as well, it's expensive. Do they have to pay? If they sponsor you, do they have to pay for that?
No, they think they do, but they don't technically have to. A lot of them will pay a lawyer or somebody to do it for them because they just don't want to. Honestly, they could do it themselves without a lawyer, because basically to sponsor you, all they have to do is give you a contract, like offer you a legit contract. Then they have to just basically take copies of the owner's ID and then copies of like their income and like their taxes. They just have to show all of this proof that they're a legit company and that they need you for XYZ position. And they just have to show that to the immigration office. Like that's all they have to do. They don't have to pay, or they have to pay technically like a small fee, but I think it's like €20. Like it's not really. But yeah, so like they don't necessarily have to. Then after they get that permission, it's all up to you. You have to do the second half. I think the misconception is one, that a lot of companies think it's a lot more work than it actually is. Two is that, yeah, I think they do think that they have to pay more, but I mean, they end up having to pay you, you know, like they have to pay all the like your fees of moving, like all that negotiating stuff. So there is that. But in terms of how much they have to pay, like I've found that they have to pay the taxes, like small fee, but nothing like, it's not like thousands. Yeah, no, it's just low tax.
And what about another thing I've seen, like discussed in expat groups, then sources of all joy, I say that sarcastically, is that there are a limited number of work visas issued each year by the Italian government. Is that true?
Yeah, there's this thing called the Decreto Flussi, which I guess that's kind of the same thing. Like in the US, we have a lottery. Like for a green card, there's a lottery.
Yes.
A certain amount of people. And it's basically the same thing, but it kind of works. Okay, so like there's the Decreto Flussi, but one, they have a certain amount of spots for sector. Like they might have certain seasonal jobs or like, you know, certain numbers for that. But then they also will have it kind of more chronologically, like you have a time frame. And from what I've understood, like from what I've seen so far, is that kind of time frame changes. You have to kind of be on top of it. And yeah, you have to know when it opens, and then the second it opens, you want to be the first one. But it is possible also for that. So far, I haven't known anyone to get rejected because of the Decreto Flussi, but it is a possibility. Like it is, you know, it's definitely a thing. Most of the times I see people get rejected, or it's because their company found out they couldn't hire them because the immigration office says, no, somebody in Italy can do that job, or, you know, like they can find somebody else. Or Yeah, usually it's just that. Usually it's rejection. Usually it's more like, well, you can't come over, like that kind of thing. But yeah, so there is that. And that counts also for freelance visas too, which they're a little bit more, seem to be a little bit more strict on that one.
Well, talking about freelance, like I read recently that there has been like a new type of visa that has been maybe recently approved. Is it the digital nomad?
So actually it got rejected.
But, did it?
Yeah, so there was talk about it, and like it was so quick I like missed it also. There was talk and they like proposed it to the Senate, but it was only in like talking phase, and I guess it didn't actually make it even past talking phase because they just decided, nah, like we don't want to do that. But I mean, the thing about the digital nomad visas, how it was set up, but also like right now, technically Italy does have a bunch of incentives for digital nomads, but you don't get a visa. So like it has to be somebody in the EU or something like that. But either way, the way that they set it up is that you still have to open a partita IVA and like pay to Italy and like do this, which like you end up having to get residency then, and then you end up having to like, so it kind of defeats the whole purpose of digital nomadism. Like it doesn't make sense exactly. Yeah. So unfortunately, there's that. Like they haven't really understood
the concept.
Yes. I mean, the whole point is usually you're a digital nomad, but you're not paying taxes to every country you go in. You're paying taxes to your home base and then hopping around. But no, Italy's kind of like every time they talk about it, they always are thinking like, oh yeah, you're gonna pay us. Like, yes. Which I mean, yeah,
for us.
Yeah, which doesn't really make sense. Like it doesn't. So there's that. But yeah, so I mean,
how does it work with the freelance situation now then? So any like freelance work visas, are they dealt with slightly differently as opposed to like working for a company directly?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. So you still have to get the same permission before you even start the visa. You have to get permission, which is the like entering in the Decreto Flussi, like this lottery thing, and basically like. To get that permission, you have to prove that you already have the money to take care of yourself, that you have health insurance, all that, but also that like you have a place to stay in Italy. And it's not like written on the checklist necessarily, but they usually also ask you for like clients, like they want to know what you're doing and also like who are you serving, because I mean, I think what I've understood is like their process is like if you are coming on a freelance visa to Italy, but you're working only for like Dutch clients, what is the point of coming to Italy? Like they don't really see. Yeah. I mean, that's not like outright written anywhere. Like it's not stated, but kind of from what I've understood is they're a little bit like, they want to also see that you're serving Italy. The freelance visa itself, honestly, is really difficult to get. Most people, yeah, everyone I know who's gotten it so far has been here on a different visa first and like applied for it while they were here and then hopped back and forth. In theory, I was talking to a woman who was applying for it from zero, like from the US without being in Italy. But she hasn't let me know yet if she got it or not. But yeah, it's more, but I mean, the good thing is like, if you come as a student, because that is the easiest one, converting as a student, depending what, like if you graduate university in Italy, it's easier. You can just convert to a freelance or convert to work a lot easier. So you kind of don't have to enter in that lottery. You don't have to do anything like that. You can kind of just swipe in.
But if you do come here on a student visa, for example, like when you came on a student visa, were you able to have like a job on the side, like a part-time job or a way to support yourself?
Legally, you can only work 20 hours.
Okay.
But I worked online for US clients and international clients, and I babysat. So I worked however many hours I wanted. Like they didn't really keep track because I mean, again, that's one of those things where legally, technically, no, you can only work 20 hours. But honestly,
is that 20 hours a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of those like under the table jobs or like online jobs that I was like taxing to the US, because being a student, I was still technically a dependent of my parents. You know, it's fine. Like I was able to support myself that way. But yeah, but no, like if you were to get a job in Italy, no, you could only do 20 hours.
Okay. And in your opinion, what is the biggest mistake that you see people make when it comes to the whole visa situation?
I think that like the biggest mistake is that they aren't, or like two kind of things. They don't give themselves enough time. It's not like you can just decide tomorrow I'm gonna go, like, no, I'm gonna buy a ticket and next week I'm moving. Like the visa process takes like a year. If it's that short, like sometimes it can take a lot longer because they might reject you the first time and ask you to come back with other things. The consulates, at least in the US, are really backed up because of COVID. Like some people were telling me at their consulate, there's a waiting time of 2 years.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So like you need to, like you can't just say, oh, I'm going to go get this now. Same thing with citizenship. A lot of people who apply for Italian citizenship also sometimes think like, oh, I just got to get the paperwork and I've got it right here. No, like once you've got the paperwork, there's still like a 2+ year waiting because like who knows how long that'll take. But so that's one thing is like timing. The other one is that they're not flexible a lot of the time. So because that's the thing, like work, the chances that you'll find a job in Italy who's willing to sponsor you are quite slim compared to the money you have. You can go study in Italy for a year or two. Like, so I think that people like, if they really, really want to move to Italy, they need to be a little bit flexible in deciding, okay, well, maybe I can start part-time and then find something there and do it. Or maybe I can study first, or maybe, like, you kind of just have to have a bunch of ideas and like go down the list and see what works. So.
Yeah, because you know what, I agree with you because I think people move here and they want to have everything immediately. They want to arrive here and have like everything like exactly as they envision it. But this is Italy, and Italy isn't like that. Like you have to be flexible. You have to be able to adapt. Yes,
well, so like apartments. Yeah, like finding apartments and like no, you can't. You're not going to find like an affordable apartment until you're here because online they up the prices. Like they definitely up the prices for all you. So
and plus you need, especially talking about apartments briefly, like you need to be here in person because the condition of them varies wildly compared to the UK anyway. I'm sure it's the same like from where you're from, but
exactly. And also like the photos don't do it justice. Like they know, like you can't really, that's why most people, especially like students, need a place to stay and that kind of stuff. So like if you're students, I usually tell them Airbnb for the first few months, or there are those like Spot a Home and like those guys who do like the video. Honestly, they're so overpriced. They're in every single city. They're ridiculously overpriced, but they get you a place that is clean. Like, you're bound to have a good place for at least a while. So
yeah, it depends how much work you want to put in yourself or how much you want to delegate to somebody else, I guess.
Yeah, which is also the thing about like buying in Italy too. Like people don't like, everybody wants an Italian villa and they don't really realize like, oh no, they're absolute shitholes. Like
it's true.
You have to work for like 10 years to get something good. So
I think it's like people really have like so many misconceptions about Italy. I really do. People buy into the romanticism of the country, I think, and sometimes it means that they don't necessarily see what is really in front of them.
Yeah. Which I will also say you can come over and live that life if you have a lot of money. If you already have your citizenship and you have a lot of money, you can kind of coast on through pretty nice life.
Yes.
Like it's definitely, it is a possibility. Like it exists.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different reality than I think we get to see most of the time.
Very true. If you could give one piece of advice to somebody who's watching this video now who is thinking of moving to Italy, they need to go through the visa process, what would that piece of advice be?
So usually I like kind of tell my clients a lot of times is to really sit down with yourself and like educate yourself about where you're going. One, like in the sense that really look at yourself and think about why do you want to go. Because I think like especially in the pandemic and like it happened a few years ago in the US, like under Trump, a lot of people were just like, oh, I'm gonna go, like I'm just going to Italy. I'm like, okay, no, but that's not a good enough reason. Like you need to actually know what you're getting yourself into and be able to like understand why you want to be, like why do you want to do this and are you going to stick with it. So like I always tell people to really check in with their why and also to really educate themselves about the area they're going to, because for instance, like southern Italy is gorgeous. Like I love to go down, but I'm like, listen, if you're gonna go live there, you need to know that like things are kind of messy.
Very slow.
Yeah, it's like, listen, like if you're used to transportation, like you actually just have to kind of do a reality check, because I mean, yeah, if you've been, like, people say, oh, like I come to Rome every year. Okay, but you're staying in a hotel. Like, do you know if you have an apartment, we have scorpions running around? Like, like stuff happens. So it's more like really know, like educate yourself, scope it out and actually figure it out. Kind of more like that rather than just the dream stuff. But yeah, that's my. Because I also think that if you know what you're getting yourself into and you know why you're doing it, like you really know why, you're going to have a lot more patience. Like while you're dealing with the visa and the permesso, you're going to just be a lot more calm. Whereas if you didn't realize that's what you're getting yourself into, you're going to lose your mind and you're going to want to go home.
It's so true. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of people who come here or want to come here do not have a strong enough why. In fact, I speak about this in some of my other videos because I 100% agree with everything you've just said. And I think what happens is that results in them having a lot of negative experiences. But what happens is they then share those negative experiences with other people in these expat groups. You can tell I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with them. And unfortunately, people listen to those. They listen to those experiences and they believe that that's gospel. And it isn't. It's just that one person's viewpoint based on what they did or didn't do. So yes, you're absolutely
exactly, because I think like we all have a bad day, like people are mean to us all the time, and like I will complain, like there's one hospital like I don't like because I didn't like the doctor I went to one time, so I'll tell people like this is horrible, but I won't say every single doctor in Italy sucks and the healthcare system is a mess. Like no, like it's actually there's a lot of really good stuff. It's like one singularizing it out of everything else, which is also the case, like so like on advice, this is such a like, I feel like a lot of people don't want to hear this, but moving to Italy for your husband or serious partner is not a reason if you do not actually love everything to do with Italy, because I think that is one of the biggest, most people I see who are having a hard time, it's because they tend to be in Italy for their partner's family and their partner's life and their partner's job, and they really end up missing their friends, their home, their lifestyle, their everything. So that's another one that's just like you really need to take it into consideration.
Totally, because what they do is in effect they take on the life of their partner without creating one for themselves. So
which
they lose everything about them.
But yeah, like obviously, in general, psychologically, always make sure you're looking out for yourself. But yeah, but that's something I've seen that in Italy, it's a real shame, because then they don't, like families in Italy can be heavy. It can be hard to, especially if you don't have your family there with you, it can be hard. And so that's just something I've noticed that a lot of people can struggle with. Like, so it's always good to keep in mind, I think. But yeah.
Definitely. And you wrote a book, didn't you? I've seen to help people. Tell us about the book and tell us where we can get it from.
Yeah. So basically, I just had a bunch of friends who were constantly asking me like, how do you do things? And I realized that like a lot of the information on visas and also permesso di soggiornos, really on permesso di soggiornos, which, sorry, for those of you who don't know, it's your permit to stay. So after you get your visa to enter Italy, you have to apply for a permit to stay and renew it every year in order to remain in the country. And you don't have to renew your visa. You just have to renew this. just so everyone knows. But yeah, and like I just sort of realized that a lot of the information about the options available was only in Italian, and like police station Italian. So like no one, no one knew what it was saying. And then like, or on the consulate website. But what I really found is that the consulate website sometimes lies. Like different consulates will have different lists and like different. Yes. And so, I just figured it would be nice to have one place where you can just look up everything, like a general resource book. So that's why I wrote this like Moving to Italy guide, which its name is a little misleading. It does talk a lot about moving to Italy and the visas, but then it talks a lot also about the different permits to stay and like the different options. So if you came here on a study visa, but you want to stay, what can you do? Like, what are your options? So I made sure to kind of like write a bunch of different kind of timelines, like of different things you could do, so that your options are always open. And I also I like to include a lot in there about like residency, health insurance, just kind of like your basic documents you need. Yes. And so so that's where that like kind of idea came from, just because I didn't find a resource that had everything. And so I'm just selling that as a PDF or Kindle. And so far it's been really helpful to most people. Like I find a lot of people like message me, and I do offer consultations, but obviously like I really wanted to make sure all of the information was also like really accessible and affordable. So that's why like I wrote the book and I made it pretty cheap, because I was like, here, like I swear all of the answers are in here. Like,
and if you're interested, I'm going to put the link to your book below in the show notes. So if anybody wants to go and have a look, you'll be able to find the link below in the notes. But yes, I agree. I think sometimes we can be overwhelmed by all the information that there is out there, and you don't know what is real and what isn't, and you can get all confused and listen to people's experiences that may not be accurate. So yes, I think it's a fantastic idea of what you've created. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I ran into, like, I don't know with Brexit if you ran into it, but like I got to a few points in my journey where it was like the last month and I needed to find a new permit to stay. Like I needed to figure something out, and I wanted to just ask like a simple yes or no question. Like I literally just needed like a yes or no answer, and lawyers would charge like $250 for like one email just to tell me yes or no.
Oh my God!
And I did find in Turin, I was really lucky that in Torino specifically, we have a really nice immigration office, and they told me everything and like helped me out a lot. But I did not find that in every other city. That was only Torino. So I mean, like, that was the other thing, is I just wanted to make sure, like, so much of this information is out there. If you go ask, find, you have to dig, but you'll find it, instead of having people, like, pay their whole savings to
no, definitely, because when you want something in English, there's a premium attached to it, and people see it as a ching 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 dollar signs, like they see it as a business opportunity. So for this, I've seen this as well, like people, for example, I opened up a Partitiva recently, and when I was looking into the process, I had a free consultation with an accountant who spoke in English. Oh dear God, he quoted me a ridiculous sum of money, over €1,000, to set up a Partitiva, which didn't even cost me that much. And I've got an amazing accountant now. And I was like, can you imagine if I didn't have a clue about the whole process, or I didn't have any kind of connections, I would have paid this money when I didn't even need to. So yes, I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's I do have a list, because a lot of people also ask about accountants and like commercial. Yes. So I have a list, and I have a list of those who speak English, and I'm like, listen, just so you know, all of these will be double the price than if you just go to like Nextdoor. And I mean, it does suck, but I think it's also a great challenge to improve your Italian if you just find it, because you'll learn so much new vocabulary you like didn't even know you needed.
It's so true. It's so true. So tell us a little bit more about the services that you offer, because you don't just have the book, you have consultations. What else can you offer people that are interested in moving to Italy?
Well, like so to be honest, like I said, I do try to do like the most I can do for free and also affordable, just because I like, these are resources I want people to have. So like I do have on my website a blog that has so much information, like you can search how to find your doctor. I have a lot of stuff about women's health in Italy if you guys have questions about that. The Partitiva, I left that accessible to everyone.
Well, it was you. You helped me a lot with that because I followed your, yes, I read your post about it, and that was that I turned to when I knew I had to do this.
Yeah.
So yes.
So like I do have a lot of posts there, and then in the book if you need like a step deeper, and then I do also offer consultations like one-on-one where we sit down for an hour, and that could be, I mean, during those, a lot of times people have questions about which visa, and we talk through their options and how to prepare for that. Other times people are already here in Italy and they want to extend their permesso, and we talk about options for that. Other times it's literally like I've had some people ask me like, listen, I want to move to like this area, this area of Italy or this other, like they can't decide. And so they're like, can we talk about what the differences are, what it's like, what's healthcare like? So just a little bit chatting about how everything works, what might be the best options for them. Because obviously everyone who's coming, if they haven't visited the whole country, they might be like, listen, I really need access to like a really good hospital, but I want to live like in the countryside, or like, but I also want to be like close to, I don't know, like historic spots. Okay, so like we find them a good spot. Most of the time through these consultations though, it is more I give them a checklist and a plan, but everyone is on their own to do it themselves. So like as opposed to a lawyer, you probably pay a lawyer and they'll go do it for you. I try to keep a lot of that stuff like more for people to do on their own, because also that's how you learn. Like you'll learn and you'll actually have a better experience. So so that's what I offer. And then occasionally I offer kind of group courses. Instead of the one-on-ones, which are very personalized. These courses might cover like one subject. So I did one on the Partita IVA. I did another one just on the basics of which visas are available and kind of a little Q&A. So those occasionally. I don't have any coming up right now, but if you keep an eye on the website or Instagram, they're always.
Yes, and I'm going to put a link to all your socials as well below, because you also have a YouTube channel as well.
I do. It's so lazy. I do have one, and I was doing like little questions that are basically like the highlights of what I get asked a lot. I do have a lot of stuff, especially how to walk through how to do your permesso di soggiorno. So I do have a lot of that information already up on YouTube. Sorry, I've just been kind of lazy. I like haven't gotten around to making more. I was on a roll over Christmas break, and then kind of like
life happened.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, that's good. I'll put a link below to the show notes to all of your resources, your website, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, and people can find you and your book as well. But thank you so much for being with me today. Honestly, I think it's going to help so many people, and it's certainly given me information as well, because I literally had no idea about the visa process. So I literally had to do my Carta di Soggiorno, which is the Brexit version of the permesso, but it is different because you have it for every 2 years, or when you become a permanent citizen, it lasts for 10 years. But it's considered not to be obligatory, but it's recommended that you have it, because a lot of documents now, if you go to, I don't know, buy a house, or you want to need the number, so you need to have it. So,
I actually had a couple of British friends live up in Piedmont, and they were having that they needed to get their health insurance, I think. Yes. And they're like, well, our tessera sanitaria ran out, but like that's the only document I have. And I was like, okay, like go get your Carta di Soggiorno.
Yes. Yes, it's so important. And you know, that was a bit of a process, but it was I did it like pretty much immediately, because I knew that I had to get it sorted out. You just have to bite the bullet.
When in doubt, get every document. Like literally my wallet is full of different ID cards, because I just like every document.
Yes.
You never know. Like they will just ask you for random stuff, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I will put the links below. And yeah, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was wonderful to find the time to chat also.